Like I mentioned earlier, we've been doing wean-to-finish for about 15 years. So it takes time to get all that set up, but it starts with Jimmy and Jay and then with me, understanding what has to be done, setting up the protocols, and then teach them to our managers so they fully understand why we're doing it. And then if they create that buy-in to the culture while we're doing stuff and how we treat people, and having them, spread that to the growers so that they understand, everybody feels like they're a part of Tosh Farms. And once you get that buy-in and everybody understands why you're doing it and they trust you, and you can change your protocols across the board pretty quick.
Swine it.
Hello and welcome to our newest podcast, Swine It. Welcome to all the viewers to our podcast today. I've got a special guest, Mr. Adam Walters. Adam is the finishing manager at Tosh Farms. I've been fortunate, over the last several years to get to go to visit a Tosh Farm, a sow unit, and with Jay Oliver. Really enjoyed that. So I have a lot of respect for Tosh Farms. And so welcome, Adam, today to our podcast.
Thank you, Jared.
We always kind of start our podcast and kind of tell us a little something about, how you got started with in the pig industry and how you ended up at Tosh Farms and, what was your pathway to where you are today?
All right. Yeah, I'd be glad to. I grew up on a small hog farm, probably 10 minutes outside of Knoxville in Seymour. It's called L&W Land Race. My dad was in partner with one of the professors from UT, Professor Ed Lidval. And that was my childhood growing up on the hog farm. And we had tobacco every summer. I got an older brother. He's 3 years older than I am. And, we always learned that you had to enjoy what you were doing because either way the job had to be done. And so, it was always family was together whenever we were working. And I guess probably early 90s, my dad got out of the hog farm and decided to go into the dairy business. I always joke with him is at that time he must have been angry with himself because if you've been around dairy cows, that's a very hard job. It's a lot easier to working with pigs. But, from that, I played football growing up through high school. Went to college at Emory Henry College in Southwest Virginia and did not have any interest in going back to the farm. I wanted to get away from pigs as far as I could. But freshman year in college, I ruptured a disc in my back. And so that sort of ended my football career. And, since then I've had 9 orthopedic surgeries. But through college, major was geography and city planning. And that has nothing to do with what I'm in now. But the advisor, Dr. John Morgan, showed a lot of interest in me. And, from him, I learned how important building relationships are. And, you making that connection with the people you work with and the people you're around is huge. It can change how you look at stuff and how you attack certain situations. And, once I graduated, my brother had already been at Tosh Farms for 3 years. Unlike me, he knew he wanted to work in ag. And so after he got his master's at UT Knoxville, he started working at Tosh. And then he convinced me to ride along with him. And I was going through my last back surgery. And whenever I got cleared to work, I started at Tosh, and that's been 17 years ago. I was hired in as one of the service techs. And at that time, we were doing nursery farms. So the service tech was, which I'd say is probably pretty common to what most of the service jobs in the industry are right now. We done the pig placement, the weekly reports, selecting the top hogs and everything. And after I was there for a couple of years, we switched over to wean-to-finish, and I'd done service work for 8 years, and I got promoted where I was over the regional managers and the baby pig techs. And then a few years ago, I got promoted where I was over the whole department. And that sort of gives you an idea of how I got to where I'm at now.
An animal nutrition technology company offering innovative products and new applications for the swine industry. The combination of AB Vista enzymes, technical services, and nutrition expertise provides the industry with new opportunities to further improve production efficiencies. Fiber is receiving renewed interest due to its influence on the microbiome, and AB Vista has brought together research experts to discuss the industry's knowledge of fiber functionality and to introduce a Stimbiotic, targeted to improve fiber digestion. To request access, contact NAM at abvista.com. That's NAM at abvista.com.
Yeah, that's a good story. And we have a lot of similarities myself. It seems like you get started in agriculture, it's hard to get it out of your blood. And I did the same. I started out, when I was young, and I've done all the jobs on a farm. Some of them, not real clean, nice jobs, but I think it gives you a perspective of, and it seems like, you kind of moved up and in the Tosh organization, and gives you a perspective of what, people have to do on a day-to-day basis in other areas of your business. So very good. It sounds like you made a full circle and came back to your roots somewhat, a little bit, but so very good.
Well, like you said, it gets in your blood and you can't get away from it.
It is. My dad tried to talk me out of it. He said, don't get in farming, and I listened to him for a while, but then I did come back and was glad, and I'm glad where I'm at today. So, but very good. You being a finishing, it seems like we focus a lot on sow production and nursery, but it's good to talk to somebody I feel like has got kindred spirits there on the finishing side, because that's a lot of people forget that's where most of our costs are. Most of our feed is in that finishing side. Most of our risk, we get those pigs all the way almost to market. We have, we've got all the cost in them, and so if we lose those pigs, then we're losing. We've got all that money invested, and then we don't get anything out of it. So it's a thankless job, and my brother does it in our organization. And my hat's off to those people in finishing. So, but I think today maybe we can talk a little bit on some of the strategies you've used and some of the things you can share with maybe some production viewers that we have on this podcast, and just some of the things and tips that you found in your job and that helps us do our jobs better. I guess, the first thing we always started with for long periods of time is feeder. We had a separate nursery, and then from feeder to market. Tell us a little something about how that works in your organization, and how you maybe transition into a wean-to-finish production system.
Yeah, Jerry, that's a great question, because whenever you're transitioning from nursery and finishing to wean-to-finish, that work it's done at the nursery still has to be done at the wean-to-finish barn. And you're working with the finishing managers and owners that are not used to doing that work. So the way we looked at it is it worked out better for us to have the actual Tosh managers to hire people and create positions to help with that management, to sort of have specialized managers going along with the age of the pigs. And so to sort of offset that extra labor on the front end, we decided to create a position we call baby pig techs. And that's mainly your nursery managers. And I started calling baby pig techs because I was having problems getting applications. And so I just changed the name of the position, and I had it was amazing how many people started applying for the job. I guess everybody wants to work with baby pigs, but the big part of their role is, they handle the shipment coming in. They sort through the pigs, place them, make sure our pen density is correct, and sort of pull the 10% off, and place them by health, and just go through and select the pigs that we're going to keep and get our start inventory. And through that, they go through and, I try to tell them, you don't tell these farmers what to do. You teach them what to do. And because the baby pig techs do it every day, but, as you're filling a site, that turn of pigs, they only place babies about twice a year. And so, they're going through teaching the protocols, how to feed, what we're sorting, how to help with medication. They're there with them, teaching that process and going over why we're doing it and why it's so important.
Very good. Now, I guess people forget a lot of times it's a big difference in trying to raise a 50-pound pig versus a nursery. Try to get all the specialized care that you have to do in there. But that was a good strategy. People love to work with them. They look so much more lovable when they're small, the pigs. And, we actually went on a farm when I was out there visiting, and that was a pretty neat with those guys. A lot of times our contract growers out here probably no different from yours. A lot of them are row crop farmers. They got a lot of things to do, and so it just takes a lot of. We forget that we got to get that. How well that pig does a lot of times is how well it gets started. If it gets started right.
Yeah, it goes with that relationship with your contract growers. Asking people to do stuff instead of telling, going through and teaching them. And like I've sit down and had conversations with some of them recently. They were asking why their responsibilities have changed so much over the last 10 years. And I've explained to them that the job's evolving, how we're raising pigs is evolving. And we've taken over most of the sorting and medicating. And, they spend a lot of their time on feeder adjustment and managing the feeders, because that's where over 75% of your cost is in that feed. And if the quicker we can get the pigs started off on feed, the better turn we're going to have.
You made a good point. How do you get, I know we probably agree that a change is very hard for people in our industry. Maybe that's true of people in general, but it seems in my experiences with our people, they don't like change. And so how do you, when you want to make a change and it's something that you need to do, how do you get people to change and to buy into what you're trying to do? What are some strategies that you were able to use?
Like I mentioned earlier, we've been doing wean-to-finish for about 15 years. So it takes time to get all that set up, but it starts with Jimmy and Jay, and then with me, understanding what has to be done, setting up the protocols, and then teach them to our managers so they fully understand why we're doing it. And then if they create that buy-in to the culture while we're doing stuff and how we treat people, and having them, spread that to the growers so that they understand, everybody feels like they're a part of Tosh Farms. And once you get that buy-in and everybody understands why you're doing it and they trust you, and you can change your protocols across the board pretty quick. We have about I say around 100 contract farms. And, I could, if we want to change a certain protocol, I could send out some messages, and within a couple of days, everybody would, they would want to know why, but, we'd explain it to them, and the trust and relationship is there that, it would happen pretty quick.
You made a good point. I think we worry about it a lot about focus on our pigs, but we forget the people. And, we need to take care of the pigs, but we also need to take care of, our most important resource, which is our people. And they respond to how they're treated, and we need to keep those people, particularly in today's environment where it's everybody's struggling, trying to, keep people work and keep people showing up every day. So that's a good point. It's one of the things I was going to get to a little later, but going back to the pigs, what once you started this baby pig techs, I believe you said, what did you see right off the bat? Any changes to your production and your performance with the pigs, moving from a feeder pig to a nursery wean-to-finish system? Some of the
Well, just going from working in a nursery to doing the work that age of pigs in a wean-to-finish barn, I think you don't have the stress of moving the pigs as many times, and of course you don't have the added cost of shipping other places and the extra employees at a nursery. But just more consistency with what's going on in the barns, and they're seeing those pigs multiple times, and they see all the flows, and they're also working with the other managers in the barn. Everybody has a piece of what's going on there. It's not getting passed off to another farm. What you're starting there, everybody sees, and it'll end at that farm. So, everybody can see the progression of the health and how the pigs are going. And, as they come in and we get the protocol set right, and, everybody's focused on getting the pigs started off on feed, getting them sorted, right density in the pens, and, just that idea of each group of it working together, people are more involved in it, and, they take more pride in what they're doing.
Yeah, I think a lot of times it's those people that see the little details, and those details are important. Like you said, stocking density, pulling pigs, and you got a person, a highly trained person there, starting those pigs off. That sees and does all the little details, the vaccines, and pulling, medicating pigs. Tell me a little something about what kind of requirements do you have for a baby pig tech? Do they have to have prior experience?
Well, in our area, there's not much prior experience. West Tennessee, there's not many hog farms, and which I look at that as a good thing, because you don't have to worry about old habits or where I was worked at before did it this way. You bring somebody in that has a great attitude and wants to learn and loves animals. And, we bring them in, and, we start off with 5 weeks of training. It's a buddy system. Every week there was somebody different. And, it's, I mentioned hiring the right person with that attitude is the hardest thing to do. And then once you find that person, it makes it easy training them and teaching them, because they want to know, they want to put in that work, and, they're there doing the best they can every day. And as far as requirements, I guess, it's mainly college grads, but, I have some managers that have prior experience working at Tosh that have moved up into those roles.
Well, that's a good point. Sometimes you'd rather have you want somebody that's just got good traits and characteristics, like you say, but not necessarily do they have to have prior pig knowledge, where you can kind of mold those people to the way that you want to do it. You don't have any prior biases. I see that in our system as well sometimes. But those people that know more, they're hard to get, do things maybe a little different. Consider it.
I was going to say, in the wean-to-finish department, I've got around 20 managers, and it goes from the baby pig techs. They work with them about the first 6 weeks. Then I have our regional managers. They have around 15 farms that they keep up with, do service reports, and work with those growers all the time. And then we have our sales team where they go in, they'll weigh the pigs, and then select the pigs that go to market. So if I can find a good person, I got a job in there somewhere that will fit their personality. And it's just getting them in there and figuring out what area fits them the best.
Right. Yeah. So a lot of their experiences, you try to move within your organization. that brings another good point. I noticed talking to Jay, it was interesting how the employees are set up where they can actually increase their pay based on learning different things, and as they learn different things, they become more valuable to Tosh. Where they can, maybe you can have somebody that learns farrowing, that learns breeding, so you can move them around. Do you find that is that something you do in your division? Is there a way of moving up how they can move up in salary by being cross trained?
Yeah, how we look at it is whenever I'm interviewing people, bringing new people on, it's not a job, it's opportunities. Because unlike other farms and stuff, Tosh is still growing. So as Tosh continues to grow in size, this year we're going to sell around 1 million market hogs. In 4 or 5 years, I think we're projected to be at 1.4. So my department will continue to grow. And in that growth, there'll be other levels of management created. And, as people are hired in, the opportunity's there. It's whatever you put in it, it's what you get out of it. Just like from when I started here to where I'm at now, as long as you're coming in, doing your best and willing to learn, the opportunities to move up to other levels of management throughout Tosh is always there.
I know you mentioned earlier when we started, it's managing those relationships that's really important. What are some strategies that you find that help you, interact with people and manage and get those good relationships that you talked about? What do you do and how do you interact with people, and how does that dictate, how you can build those relationships?
Well, with my management team, we have quarterly meetings where all of us will get together. And I always try to throw something in there, disc profile, strength finders. And, our last meeting, I put some new employees that have been there 6 months, paired them with somebody that's been there 20 years. And they went over and talked about, why is the person who's just starting actively engaged and how they're making people around them better compared to the person who's been here 20 years. How are they looking at? How did they stay motivated at Tosh for 20 years? And, I think the biggest thing is getting to know people's personalities and understanding your own personality. Disc profile, I'm a D personality. So the small talk and stopping is hard for me to do. So I make it a point to stop myself to have those small conversations. And, because it's always, with the line of work we're in, it's always, you have so much going on, you're worrying about completing this task and moving on to the next one. But, I know I lack in that. So I make an effort to stop and have those conversations and to build those relationships. And we get together as a team and do that. And, that way, not only do I know them better, they understand me better. And, then all that, is the better everybody communicates and works together, the end result is it's better for the pigs.
It's like the old, I guess, cliche that we don't care until we know how much people care. People care, when they learn that we care about them, and then, then they'll care about what they're doing. So you see that a lot. It sounds like you're interacting with those people maybe on, in a non-work setting, and trying to find out more about their individuals. Do you treat, how do you, there's always times when you have to have a tough conversation maybe with someone. How do you do that, and come out of that conversation? My wife does a great job of this. She can talk to people and have to have maybe say some, I'll call it constructive criticism. But at the end of the day, they come out and, they feel good about it. So how do you do that? When maybe you got to reprimand the employee, and how do you do that in a manner that they come out of it and maybe not feel like they're attacked personally? How do you do that?
Well, that's a great question, Jerry. And I hope I can give you a good answer.
Oh, you will.
I'll try to do a good job with that. But, now I think it all goes from, being pretty transparent through the hiring process and the training process and going over goals and expectations. And, I'm always going through farms, and then I'll discuss with them what I see and what I want them to see, and, ask them what they think about what's going on. And, but to get to those conversations, for the most part, they know that it's coming, and they know that they've messed up on something. And, if it comes down to something to where it's, if it was an accident or just something that got forgot, those are a lot easier than something where somebody's made a decision on their own to cut corners and to, not do their best. That's whenever, basically, if they're choosing not to do their best, then, you got to be pretty straightforward with and laid out to them that that's not acceptable and that has to change. And this is what has to change in this period of time. Or, I wish you the best. We'll have to part ways. You can transfer somewhere else. But, I try to keep the communication pretty transparent, the expectations. And, I try to set the standard with them myself and hold myself to that high quality. And because if I'm not holding myself to it, then it's not going to do any good when I have those conversations with them. You're not going to have that trust, and you're not going to have that buy-in with your team.
Yeah. Good points there. I think as we if we have clear expectations and then we hold people to those, and most people, understand it's not personal. But, you've just got we've all got jobs to do, and we've got to I'm here just pointing out things that we need to correct. And I can tell you're probably an easygoing, probably a real straightforward person. And I think people like that. They like somebody who just tells them what it is and doesn't play games and just kind of lays it out there on the table. So I think it's a good point as far as dealing with people. People appreciate that, I think. Seems to be the same with my experiences. We didn't change the gears a little bit. I think another area that strikes me that Tosh does a really good job is biosecurity. You've got really good health. What are some things that we're getting along here on our podcast? But what are some things that you've been able to do, or that you some biosecurity measures that you use that you think really help keep that good health?
Well, and I think a lot with us, it's our location. There's not many pigs in West Tennessee, Western Kentucky that are not Tosh pigs. But, you still have to make the point to hold biosecurity very highly. We've recently had half our flow break a PERS positive. And that happened maybe a year and a half ago to 2 years ago. And as of now, probably in another month, all those pigs will be sold and everything we have will be PERS negative. But I think we did a good job during that time, not spreading it from farm to farm. And, with the wean-to-finish barns, a lot of the farms, you have to shower in, shower out. But we do not do that. A lot of the farms don't have that available. So, we supply coveralls for all the managers, and we have a wash bay for those can be washed. We supply the white suits, gloves, booties, masks. We supply all that for them. And, all they have to do is wear them and follow it. And, if you're wearing boots, we try to, the managers that do that have boots at the farms. And we also, have a local car wash where we have truck stickers where they can go by as many times as they want to and get their trucks washed. And so following all that, if you don't want to be the person that spreads something, that's the message I try to send out. So it's a lot easier and it's a lot less messier to stay clean, follow your biosecurity protocols, and really make sure that you're not wearing any of the same stuff or tracking anything from farm to farm.
Ties back a lot of times. This biosecurity is we're asking people to do things when they're maybe not have anybody watching them. So how do you get buy-in for people, a truck driver, a feed delivery guy, or personnel? How do you get them to do things when sometimes it's really hard to validate that they're even doing it? How do you get them to buy in to following stuff? Or the importance of doing these things.
Yeah, and I think that's with how you set your biosecurity up, because you have some people that you might have 10% that'll follow it exactly. Then you'll have a certain percent that follows 80% of it, and then you'll have maybe 10% that just doesn't care. So you set it up to where you're asking them to do more than they have to control the spread of disease. And so if you have a certain percentage just following half of it, you're still covered. They're not going to spread anything. And, I think that's just the way it is with biosecurity, because, you would like to think that everybody works well on the honor system. But, at times you have it to where they might not have the booties or something, or, just educate them and let them understand how important it is. And, again, set the biosecurity for it can, if it's followed perfectly, you're not going to have any issues. But in reality, nobody's going to follow it perfectly. That you're probably sitting there, somewhere 50 to 80%. And, you're aware of that whenever you're trying to set up your biosecurity standards.
Yeah, it's kind of like you got these layers of insurance, and maybe we don't need to have all those layers, but if we have a breakdown here in one layer, maybe these extra measures cover us in that case. So really good point. Well, we're coming down to the end, and I know you and I could talk. We could talk about finishing forever, probably rest of the day. But
it's time for our famous 3.
To feed the world's growing population, the animal production industry needs to grow in a sustainable manner. Eastman produces one of the broadest organic acid portfolios in the global market and offers customer-driven swine solutions. Learn more by visiting animal nutrition at eastman.com.
At the end of our podcast, we always ask these 3 questions. So I want to ask you, get your thoughts here. First question is, what is your favorite resource? It doesn't have to be about pigs. It can be anything that you found that you've read lately, or something that you use, or maybe inspired you. What would you say? Maybe some thoughts there.
I listen to a lot of books on Audible because a lot of time driving, and I'm really big on leadership books and coaching books. So I've been reading a lot of books by coaches, and I would say the one most recently would be Swing Your Sword by Mike Leach. I was interested because I found him so interesting. If you listen to some of his interviews, and he was a mastermind behind the air raid offense. But the most important thing I took from watching him and reading his book is how much he cared about the people he's interacting with. Every time he was speaking to somebody or talking about somebody, he was fully involved in that conversation. And whether or not it was an interview or not, I think he was just a great listener, and really cared about the people that he was working with.
Yeah, it's funny. I'm in North Carolina, so I'm a big Dean Smith fan, and that was a big trait with Dean Smith. He kept up with his players all through the years, and maybe a player's been there 20 years, it's been out of the system 20 years, and he called them and see how their family is doing, and just on a personal level, keeping up with those players. So I see that. Another point, you talked about, you played football. What are some football, maybe some things you learned in football that you've carried over into your career and your position today?
teamwork. And, you always got to have somebody trying to lead the team. And, everybody's depending on somebody else. So we all have to put in, carry our weight. And, just like on the field, every role is important as the other. You're only as strong as your weakest link. So, I think that makes the department stronger. And, everybody understands that they're a part of something.
Very good. Very good. Second question, what would you say has been your biggest influencer in your life, on your career? What person maybe was your biggest influence?
This is a hard one, Jerry. I've been very blessed to work with a lot of people and
maybe a couple.
A lot of coaches.
If you want to mention, sometimes it's hard to get down to one person. Maybe you had a couple.
Yeah, growing up, of course, family and Ed Lidval. He worked at the University of Tennessee, and going through college and stuff. I mentioned Dr. John Morgan earlier. He was a big influence. Kept me in school. And then as far as in my career and stuff, I'd have to say Jay Oliver. He's a very patient man because he's put up with me for 17 years. But I think the biggest thing he's taught me is that the people are the most important thing in hog farming. And if you don't develop your managers and create that relationship with them, you're not going to be successful.
Very good. I got to know Jay a little bit when we went there, and I still send him emails from time to time. He is a bright guy, and he's got a lot of those golden nuggets, things that you don't read in a book sometimes that will help you get through, your situation, whatever it is. And so I agree. I trust, he's a really good resource. I reach out to sometimes, especially with my production and pig production. So I have to agree with you there. And our last question, what are some key traits or characteristics do you think that you see in people that are successful in our industry? What would you say are some of those traits that are consistent with successful people?
Like you just said there with successful people, I don't think it would necessarily have to be in their industry. I think it's pretty much with whatever you're doing. Certain people strive to do more, hold themselves accountable. But I would say one big thing is attitude. If you bring people in that think they're owed something or think they don't have to listen or follow stuff they need to, they're not going to be successful. And then, I talked with Jay about this before, that I've noticed as I've moved up in management, everybody is an expert at what they do as you move up. But the biggest thing is how well you work with people. If you can't sit down and work with somebody you're having disagreement with, you're stopping yourself from being able to move up. You're not growing. So I would say, being able to work with somebody is very huge too.
Very good. Yeah, it gets back to people and relationships, and if we can manage those, we're probably going to have a good chance of being successful in whatever industry, like you said, but particularly in the pig industry. And that's something I really admire about Tosh. You go out, and I can see that you guys think outside the box. You adopt new technologies, maybe even ahead of the curve a little bit. But Mr. Jimmy, he is just an amazing, innovative person. I just can't, he makes basically about all the equipment that's on these farms. It's pretty amazing. And even go.
It's amazing what all he's been able to do. And, I think that's one reason that we're so successful is, a lot of the stuff you'd run into, feed, construction, we control all that. Bore stud, Tosh controls everything from the bore stud to the semis that ship our pigs to Swift. And, just his vision of farming in the industry, he's been able to make that a reality. And that's very impressive.
Yeah, very neat person to meet and try to emulate for sure. Well, Adam, it's been a joy talking with you today. I wish we could talk even more, but I appreciate you. All these golden nuggets. I think we can learn. A lot of people can learn. We can learn from some of the things you mentioned and apply those to our. I've always said I'm not. I don't have a big enough ego that that I won't copy somebody. If somebody can do something, different, can show me a better way to do something, I'm going to copy that. And I came back from Jay's meeting, and from the visiting, and there were so many things that I took home. So I think that's part of it too. Just learning from each other. We learn different things and different strategies that maybe we never thought about. So very good.
Yeah. No, I greatly appreciate it. I've enjoyed it.
Yep. Very good.